It was a delight to meet with Ray and Wendy and with Ann at our synod meeting last Saturday. And I asked if I could just ask them a few questions just to help us as we reflect today on 50 years of the URC. Wendy, I believe your engagement with Congregationalism and Presbyterianism predated the formation of the URC, is that right?
It is, yes. I was a Congregationalist going to a college in Cambridge and found myself as a member of PRONGSOC, which was the Presbyterian Congregational Society. And so we met alternately in each church. So we had a Congregational church and a Presbyterian church, and we joined together and could see no difference between them really in many ways.
Yes. Anne, were you attending church around about 1972? And I wondered if you could say which church you were attending and what happened since.
I was still a member of Camberley Congregational Church before it became High Cross, but I attended a Methodist church or a chapel by North Farnborough railway station because I lived on an estate right by it, and I didn't drive in those days, so I couldn't go to the Camberley church, but I never moved my membership. But it was while I was in the Methodist church, so to speak, that the joint 1972, the Presbyterian, the Congregational joined. So when I came back, having moved into Guildford, I then joined in Portsmouth Road. I then had to learn all the new names. The deacons had become elders. the district committees and all this sort of thing all had changed. It was a bit befuddled to start off with. I soon learnt it, but yeah.
Ray, where were you in 1972?
Well, Wendy and I were married a couple of years before. We were living in Cranley, but going to the Guildford church. To be honest, I don't remember an awful lot of the actual joining up, though I do, funny enough, remember certain other church meetings discussing it, which was actually quite positive in Guildford. They were quite keen on joining up. Mind you, having said that, Guildford was remarkably short on anybody who come from a Presbyterian background in those days. Later on, we got quite a lot who came. So that's the most clear memory. I wasn't.
I'm very grateful to Revd Iain Stewart for agreeing for me to video him today. Iain is one of the retired ministers in our area of the synod, in this part of the synod, and Iain, you're a member at Westborough URC, aren't you? When was it that you became either a minister in the URC or the Congregational Church? How did that happen?
A little bit by accident, really. Having had a parish in Scotland, I did come down for a year and to do a postgraduate degree in London. And London University gave me a house for myself and the children, and they said it was in Canterbury. And so I came down, and when I went to I was looking for the Presbyterian church, and we couldn't find it, first of all, because they had joined with the Congregationalists in a little building that wasn't used, but they used a hall at the side. And I came and we got in there, and immediately we went in with my 3 children. They said, "Oh, that's good. Our minister has just retired. Will you stay?" I said, "No, I'm going back to Scotland." And after a year, I preached a few times in the little hall. They said, "Well, there's nobody. We can't get anybody else. Will you stay?" And I had to think and pray. Has God put me where I said I would never go? I would never go to England, I said. I'm Scottish, I'm Church of Scotland. And here I was in Canterbury, and they were asking me to stay. And so eventually I said, well, maybe this is God's way. And so that's how I became a minister. And when I became a minister, there was 2 churches in one. I had the Presbyterians and a Congregationalist. And so I had 2 church secretaries and 2 treasurers, and that was 1970. 1971 I was called. 1992 we became the United Reformed Church.
1972, yes.
Which I never joined, really, because I was just taken over by all the rest going over. So I suddenly found myself there. And because I was an unusual person, I remember on the 5th of October being invited to take a service in Chatham, up near London, just because I was Scottish, just to give a different slant on things. And I took as my text the 3 words: we're united, we are reformed, and we're a church.
Yeah.
That's what I spoke on the 5th of October, 1972. And I rejoiced in that we became one church.
What were your hopes for the church, for the United Reformed Church at that time?
I had been doing a lot of work with young people, being a young person myself at that stage. I had been chairman of congregational youth and doing a lot of work then with Presbyterians as well. And so it was good to see that joining up and having a very vibrant youth wing of the new URC. And so my hopes were that would continue, and I think that certainly has. One of the strengths of the URC has been the work that it's done involving young people and bringing them into full membership of the church from whatever age they are.
Anne, what were your hopes?
I was hopeful that more churches would join. We've had the Church of Christ join us subsequently, but we haven't joined with the Methodists and the Baptists and all the other denominations, which are in a way rather similar. And that seems a shame that we have all these different churches with very little difference, but it hasn't happened, unfortunately.
No.
I mean, I was baptised an Anglican. My father was an Anglican, my mother was a Congregationalist. When he died, when I was 2, I moved back to Congregational Church. I went to a Methodist church school, so I've got a fairly good ecumenical background. Yes, I'd always hoped that the churches would join. I think I was probably in that stage a bit idealistic and not fully aware really the need for people to worship in different ways, despite having experienced a lot of it. And I think perhaps the URC at the beginning was a little bit looking for a sort of one style fits all rather than a basic. But sadly, it hasn't happened. Though I think people are more acceptance of other forms of worship now than perhaps they were in the 1960s, 1970s rather, which is a good thing.
Yes. Yeah. What do you most want to thank God for, and what are your hopes for your URC over the next few years? Who wants to go first with that one?
I think I would repeat what I've said about young people, so that's what I want to thank God for, that young people were deemed very important, that people of all ages are important in our church, and I thank God for that. And I would like to see us in Guildford moving forward as we are trying at the moment with our mission, journeying together with God, opening our church more and more as a building and as a committed group of people to serve the community around us and to witness to God through that, through our community work.
Thank you, Wendy. I don't know, Anne, if you've got anything to add to that. What do you thank God for most for the URC? And
well, I think this having the community worker Lloyd, I think our outreaches for the local community is extended, especially on the dementia front. We have this group that come on a Wednesday, and that is I'm sure has been a great help to many families, because
what would you most want to thank God for the URC?
We do need more labourers in a sense. I know that the counting of ministers is difficult, but we need more people who will preach the gospel. It's always a sad thing when you find that there's somebody, they're either writing to multitudes in the church magazines and not a mention of Jesus.
What would your hopes what would your hopes be for the URC over the next few years? Would you like to see it close? Would you like to see it grow? Would you like to see it return? Would you like to see it reformed? What would you like to see?
Well, let's put it this way. It's got all the people there. It's got congregations that still, the churches that are open. It's got people who are preaching. It doesn't need more of what they've already got. If the people that we already have and the churches that we already have, it just needs some kind of revival to come and teach the people what real Christianity is about. It's when you get them in, it's what you do with them. The gospel has got to be preached, and I just think it'd be marvellous if there was some kind of revival among the people who are doing the things nowadays anyway.
United, Reformed and Church.
And that church.
Thank you, Iain, for just these few minutes. So thank you for that. I didn't give you much advance warning at all. Just rang you half an hour ago.
It's just what was in my heart.
It was in your heart.